Hi, so fact or fiction? I'm going to talk today about disc prolapses, slip discs, degenerative discs. One of the things I hear a lot is that you can slip a disc and that can be popped back in. So do you think that's fact or fiction? It's fiction. And I'm going to explain why. So I've got a spine in front of me, just a section of a spine. I'm just going to put it back together again because I was taking it apart ready for this video. Right, stood on stand. Here's the spine. This is like a sideways view. So that's the bit that's deep inside. So your stomach's at the front here, and that's deep inside. And if I turn it round, okay, I managed to dislocate this spine. Not a pleasant experience, I'm sure, with the person I've done it. Let's get it back on. Right, that's it from behind. All right, so this bit here, you can see there, that's the spinous process. So if you pressed on your back at the back, that's the bony bit you can feel. All right. The yellow bit in here represents your spinal cord. So that's the bit that sends the messages up from your body to your brain. All right. And these bits here that I've got a bit squashed. All right. They're your nerves. All right. Can you see that they sit between the vertebra? So the vertebra is the bone, then there's the disc, then there's a bone, then there's a disc. And what the discs do, especially when we're younger, can you see this is quite fat? Okay, it's hydrated, it's got good fluid, good amount of water inside it. Can you see that the joint here, best as I can, the joint here, so that's this bit between the top joint here and the bottom joint here where the nerve sits. It's got loads of space for that nerve to move. Now, obviously, this is only, a bit of plastic, and what we've got inside our body is here. This is called the facet joint. Can you see that it sits? It's where the top joint meets the bottom one. There's a capsule around here, and obviously you've got blood vessels, ligaments, muscles over the top, but you get the idea. So what happens? Okay, I'm just going to take the top vertebra off. I'm going to talk about discs today. All right, the discs sit in the middle. Just ignore the red bit. The red bit's just trying to represent that it's different in the middle. Okay, right. So outside fibers here are in a circle and they're very tightly knit together. This doesn't have a great blood supply. All right, but the bit in the middle, that bit, is where the fibers are looser. So it's the nucleus, the center of the disc. All right, the fibers are looser, so not tightly bound together, and there's more fluid, more water inside that. Okay, so it's less dense, got more water. And what can happen, I don't know if I can take the bottom one off. No, I won't take that one off. Is that as we get older, naturally the discs get thinner, so there's less water in it. All right, that's why we shrink a little bit, part of the reason. But also you've got less fluid in your discs and are a bit thinner as the day goes on. So when you wake up in the morning, they're a bit more hydrated, but the natural pressures of gravity acting down on you every part of the day means the disc gets a bit thinner anyway. All right, but it rehydrates and fills up in the morning. That's the same for all of us, no matter what our age. But obviously, as we get older, it does get a bit thinner. All right, but what can happen is that it generally happens to people under 50. It can happen over, but generally, because our discs are thinner as we get older, it's less common in the over 50s. All right, is that you can have some of the fibers at the back of this. So that's the front where your tummy is, and that's the back where the spinal cord is here. So the spinal cord sits there behind it. Is the outside parts, the two bits where the nerve that sits in the middle comes out of your body. All right, is a bit less strong. I don't want to say it's thinner. I don't want you to think that it's not strong, because it's really robust, this. And the idea is supposed to deform and move as you bend and stretch. It adapts to allow the forces to be managed over the spine, and so it doesn't put pressure on the nerves. So it is really strong, but we can get, maybe it's slightly more vulnerable to possible injury at the back. All right, and so what can happen is that you can get a small breaking of the fibers here on the inside. So of course, because it's got a little bit more fluid in it, it can just gently, can you see here, just press out a little bit. Now that, it's an awful representation, but it's what I've got, okay? That little bit there can cause it to bulge a little bit, all right? Now, obviously, the more fibers, this is now the back of your disc where your spinal cord sits there, all right? And the nerves from the outside of your body that go down your legs are here. What can happen is it can bulge in the middle or to the side, all right? But that disc is still intact. All it's doing is there's a little bit more pressure from the water, the fluid, pressing here because some of the fibers have weakened a little bit. So a slight bulge, you may not notice any symptoms, all right? Generally toward a grade 1. So that whole thing is still intact, all right? Grade 2 is the next level, and you might get more fibers weakening. So more fluid is pressed out, so the bulge becomes bigger. And a 3 is a complete prolapse. And that, by that means, is that we've now got some of that central fluid pressing because the fibers here, okay, have, I suppose, torn is a good way, weakened. So you can get some of the fluid leaking out onto the nerve. So if you've got what we call a central prolapse disc, okay, where it would leak into the spinal cord and you would have symptoms that we would want you to go and be seen. So we would want you to be seeing a doctor in the A&E, all right, as an urgent. If you had numbness between your legs, numbness in your genitals, numbness down both legs, you had a poo or a wee and you didn't know, you saw it and you thought, gosh, I've emptied my bladder or my bowel, or you can't empty your bladder or bowel, so you know you need to go, but you just can't empty your bladder or bowel, all right, so you can't wee or poo, or you lose sexual function. So for a man, an erection, a woman, they can't feel sexual pleasure. You would go to A&E. The other thing would be is if you've got your foot goes, your muscles are weak and you lose power in your legs, then you would go as well. All of those are very, very rare conditions. Okay, rare symptoms called caudal equina syndrome. But if you're watching this and you have any of those and you've had it in the last 2 weeks, you need to go. If you've not seen anyone about it, you need to go. Now, what happens is they would just assess you, okay, and look and see where you are, and you'd leave it to them. Okay, so as we're talking about it, we do need to mention that. All right, but you could also develop pain down one leg. So if it wasn't in the middle of your spinal cord, it could get pain down on one leg. And that's simply because, do you remember I showed you here? All right, can you see that's the nerve? The disc sits on top here, all right, there, and the joint's in the middle. Can you see how that might put a bit of pressure on that nerve here, all right, and cause it? Most people, what they experience, and I've had this, so I know, is pain. So depending on whereabouts, and this is for another video, all right, depending on whereabouts you experience pain down your leg, can tell us as therapists which part of the nerve, part of the spinal cord it's bothering you, okay? But pain, whilst horrible, all right, okay, is just a normal response to pressure on the nerve. Now, you would obviously need to go and seek help. If you're suddenly getting leg pain and even without back pain, we would want you to come and see. So if you've got pain, but none of all those symptoms that I've described there, I look very serious, don't I? Because I'm thinking, then what I'd want you to do is make an appointment to see your first contact physio practitioner in your GP is a good start. Okay, but if not, your GP, if you don't have any of the other symptoms we're talking about. All right. Now, can you pop a disc back in? So prolapsed disc, slip discs are the same. It's the same man, different hats, just a different description. We tend to use prolapsed, but other people use slipped. Okay. What will happen is that it will heal. Your body's so incredibly brilliant at healing. Is this over usually 6 to 8 weeks. The pain can persist for longer. The healing process is 6 weeks in all soft tissues and muscles, nerves, joints. All right. In terms of if you've got a prolapse, what will happen is that all the body will respond by creating an inflammatory response. And over that time period, over that 6 weeks, all the dead cells will be taken away. It'll create swelling and pressure. So that's what creates more pain while it's healing. Okay. And that's why a lot of the time, if you go to see someone, especially if it's just a new thing and you're only experiencing pain, though it's awful, but none of those other symptoms. And even with those symptoms, sometimes I'll just sit and wait, but that's for them to decide, is that you will slowly get better, because as the swelling subsides, which is around 3 weeks, you'll start to feel a bit of a difference and you'll feel you can move a bit more. The pressure comes off the nerve and all those chemicals that irritate the system and create pain, all right, will start to subside, all right. Now you can continue to improve and do lots of good therapy and so on beyond the 6 weeks, and you may still get pain, but that doesn't mean to say it's not healing. That just means there's still maybe a bit of pressure on the nerve. Maybe the nerve's not moving as well as it should. Naturally, maybe you're not moving as well as you should do because it's been painful. Okay, and that's why it's important to get some advice about what to do next. But it will heal, guys. It's not like something you can pop back in, because remember, I told you it's like pressures, the complete pressure is that these fibers tear and some of the fluid leaks out, the water leaks out. Well, they'll just heal, just like your muscle would heal, or a ligament would heal, or a joint would heal. It heals. The fluid, the body creates new collagen, tissue, fiber, so it forms new circles. And this heals. We're amazing. But you can't pop it back in. It's not a solid structure. Okay, it will heal over time. And even if you haven't got a complete pressure on the nerve, even if it's just a little bulge, it will heal. Okay, so I want you to be really reassured of that. All right. And degenerative discs, another video, another time. But you can't pop a disc back in and it will heal. Get some professional advice. I hope you found that useful. Feel free to share this video that I'm going to put out. And there'll be lots more to come, because I think it's really good for us to be very factual about things, because it can be very scary. And I don't want to see people scared with nonsense that's put out there. Yeah, I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you soon.